one here. All right.
Nada,
Welcome, everyone. Excited to have you here and to share with you sort of a preview of our 2020 annual report. We are still in the midst of doing data entry to get all the official statistics done, but I felt like we had enough really good news that I wanted to share it with many of you who are donors and volunteers here at the organization. So I wanted to start by just kind of introducing our team from this past year. First of all, our board members, and if you're on the call, you can just go ahead and kind of wave as I call your name. But our chair this past year has been Kathy Sheffield. Vice chair is Anna Lazat. Brian Hafer served as our treasurer before he left and then go serve on the school board. Amy Sampson has served as our secretary this year. And then other board members have been Mike Adler, Carrie Fasulo, John Jensen, Michelle Aker-Nell, Angie Ramos, Jeff Stotts, and then Cindy Moseman from the Senior Center served as the liaison from the village. We have two paid staff members here at the organization. Myself, I'm Lisa Humanick. I'm the executive director, and Stacy Dudley is our client and volunteer services manager. So we are happy to have you this morning, and we're going to start with a few words from Kathy, our outgoing board chair, with a few reflections on the year.
Thank you, Lisa. First of all, on behalf of the board of directors, I would like to say thank you to all the donors and volunteers. Our mission is to engage neighbors to empower and support one another. And so without all of your participation, we wouldn't be able to do that. So thank you so much for your active and enthusiastic participation this year. You're really making a huge difference in the community. So as Lisa mentioned, I was the board chairman in 2020, as well as most of 2019. And when I look back at that whole time, I think one of the fundamental things that I'm most excited about that we've done in the past couple years is we've really become even a more integral part of the community. So we've strengthened collaborations and started working with so many other organizations in the village. The school district, the village itself, the library, the food pantry. And so by working with all the other organizations, we are really able to serve our clients better and to streamline services. So I think that's been really exciting. As for 2020 specifically, I think that it's safe to say that year didn't turn out the way anybody thought it was going to turn out. I remember we had our March board meeting on March 11th, and we sort of talked about a COVID plan because we thought we might need it. And then just a few days later, everything shut down, and it was apparent we were going to be operating under such a plan for quite a while. And in fact, we still are. So despite all the challenges, I think there's so many things to be proud of. And when I look back, I really am struck by three things. First, the amazing work that our staff has done to adjust to this changing environment. So Lisa and Stacy have been amazing, and they have continually adjusted the plan so that we've been able to help people during this whole time. Secondly, I was really struck by the heart and the courage of all of our volunteers. So if you remember back to March and April, it was very scary and frightening. And it was really heartening to hear that immediately during this pandemic, so many volunteers were calling Neighborhood Connection to ask how they could help their neighbors. And I thought that was really great. People wanted to do shopping, wanted to make phone calls. So just seeing the heart of our community was really exciting. And volunteers have continued to give throughout the whole year. So that's been really great. They've been continuing to work hard during this. And then finally, the generosity of the community. This has been a very difficult financial time for a lot of people. And the fact that we are seeing new donors and we're seeing people specifically want to support the community during this time, I think is really exciting. It's really nice to live in a place where that people want to help others even more when times are tough. So I found those things. It was a challenging year, but I really thought those were some highlights. And again, thank you all for your involvement this year. And I'm excited for you to hear all the details from Lisa now about what we've been doing and where we're going to go.
All right. Thanks so much, Kathy. I think that's a wonderful synopsis of everything that these past, 12 months or so have brought for us. So at the risk of, death by PowerPoint, I am going to share some slides with y'all. And just make sure you get all the kind of relevant information about what this year really had in store for us. And it was a really positive year. I think we've heard so many things that have been negative about 2020, but I just see all the gifts that resulted as well. So I want to start with a little bit of background about our why. Why do we have an organization like this in our community? And the reality is that people in our community are experiencing financial insecurity, and unfortunately, at higher rates than we've seen in the past. United Way of Wisconsin puts together a wonderful report called Alice in Wisconsin, and it looks at financial hardship in the state. And ALICE is an acronym. It stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. So these are people who are working one or more jobs and just not having enough income to make ends meet. And there's a huge gap there between what's considered poverty level and what's considered the ALICE threshold. And about 90% of our clients are in that gap, and that's why we're here. We do also know that anywhere from 2/3 to 4/5, kind of depending on what study you look at, of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and that 40% of Americans have less than $400 in savings. So one unexpected expense that comes up can really be devastating for families and set them back for several months. So the ALICE threshold is determined by looking at what it takes to survive, a household survival budget. So for a single adult, that's about $21,264 a year. For a senior living alone, about $24,000. And for a family of four, two adults, an infant and a preschooler, it's about $68,472. If you look at the bottom of the slide then and compare that to the federal poverty level, that's defined as only $12,140 for a single adult, $25,100 for a family of four. Again, so you can see there's that big gap between what's considered poverty level by the US government and what it actually takes to get by. Statewide, we've got about, sorry about that. About 66% of the state are living above the ALICE threshold. About 23% statewide are living below the ALICE threshold, and we've got 11% of Wisconsinites living in poverty, kind of below that very low poverty level. If we look specifically then at the Waunakee area, incorporating Waunakee, Westport, Springfield, Dane, and some of the rural areas surrounding Waunakee. We know that about 1,922 of a little over 8,400 households are living below that ALICE threshold. So within Waunakee itself, it's 24%. Through the school district, we know that 8% of students are enrolled in the free and reduced lunch program. Prior to COVID, we had about a 3% unemployment rate. And our average rent in the area is really the big expense that hits people hard. We've got a high rent market. So $850 to $1,170 per month is the average rent here in our area. And so as we work with our clients and look at what's causing them to have such difficulty, a lot of times it is housing is the big part of that expense. And then also for our families that have children, childcare also becomes really significant. So there's some really impactful systemic and societal issues that have an influence on family income. We know one is low wages. Second is an increase in a lot of part-time jobs without benefits. And as I mentioned, of course, the housing costs. We are really fortunate, though, to live in a community where people value their obligation to each other as neighbors and they look out for each other. And it's the whole premise upon which we were founded and continue to do our work today. So one of our clients shared that, while the community store is important and being able to come and get the things that they need for their household, she said that knowing that we are not alone, that people in the community care about what happens to us, really makes all the difference in the world. And she also shared that what makes an impact is the heart that is shared with us, and the fact that the community deeply cares and that it shows. So while 2020 was a unique year, thanks to the support of the community, we really thrived here rather than struggling. And we were able to serve more people in more creative ways. And you can see here the tremendous growth that we've experienced over the last 2 years. In December 2018, shortly after Stacy and I started, we were serving 66 households in the community. That has since increased to, it was 197 at the end of the year. And right now we're actually at about 210. We've had some more growth this past month. And in terms of individuals that represents, we're up to about 694 now, slightly over 700 individuals in the community that are receiving services through Neighborhood Connection. The need that we saw families experiencing was also definitely greater than in previous years. So not only did we gain more clients, the level of need that our families were experiencing had gone up as well. Many worked in essential jobs, and so they had to be out there working, dealing with childcare and learning from home with their kids, also dealing with layoffs as their employers may have experienced spikes in COVID cases. And so when you're an hourly worker and your workplace closes, you don't have income during that time. And then those that were not essential workers, probably many lacked the capability to work from home like so many of us have had the privilege to do. So again, it was a year with a lot of struggles for the people in our community. Store visits were up over the previous year. As you can see, 641 shopping visits in 2019, 711 in 2020. But also keep in mind, we were completely closed for visits other than emergency home deliveries for 2 months of that. And for another 2 months, we were doing curbside pickup only. So the fact that we saw that level of increase really speaks to the need that was happening in the community. The total number of items that we distribute through the store, I think, is a really impressive number. And keep in mind that we're only able to distribute it because people in the community have donated it. And so we're able to turn that around and repurpose it and get it into homes where people really appreciate it and could reuse those items. Our holiday Adopt a Family program was larger than ever before. 2 years ago, we matched about 42 families. Last year, 72. This year, 89 families were matched for the holidays and were able to have their wish lists fulfilled, again, by the generosity of the community. We provided 175 Christmas meals. Again, this year, pivoted a little bit and did it differently. And for most of our clients and the people who needed them, we got gift cards out to them. Rather than doing the big community event where we pack up meals and deliver them and involve about 200 people in one day. It just wasn't safe to do that. So we did provide those gift cards, and there were about 25 or 26 people who were homebound that we did go ahead and deliver groceries to. And our Neighbor to Neighbor Fund, which is designed to help families when they are experiencing a short-term unexpected crisis, helped 36 families this year. With a total direct financial assistance of almost $18,000. And we're able to sort of bundle that. We're going to talk a little bit about collaboration in a few minutes, but able to bundle that with other organizations that provide direct financial assistance to really help those families out. We're kind of waiting to see now what happens with rent assistance and utility assistance. Not many people are asking for help right now because we're anticipating that that's going to be coming. But certainly, depending on the level of coverage that we get from that, we're definitely expecting to see more families needing assistance from that Neighbor to Neighbor Fund. And I think what also is really significant that in addition to the store and our holiday programs, we were able to keep all of our other programs running this year and helping people, with the exception of English Group, which is a face-to-face, English practice for people who come to us with all different primary languages. But that one, because of its in-person nature, did not happen, although we are making it virtual this year. So we're getting ready to gear that up again here soon. And I'd like to call on Stacy to share with us the story of a client family for whom really our comprehensive level of services and support of the community have been vitally important. So Stacy, can you share with us?
I would love to. So we served a family, we've been serving a family, who is a single mom of 3, and one of her children has a chronic health condition. He received a kidney when he was fairly young, and his body is rejecting that this year. So on top of everything going on with 2020, that was just a little picture of what they were experiencing. So the majority of 2020, this family was in the hospital, and this young boy was in the hospital, and mom was by his side. So she wasn't able to work. And he was really fighting for his life. So she had reached out to us for emotional support. So through our support services, with my role in case management services, we were able to provide some support, coordinate some mental health services for this family, some of the physical coordination with the hospital, making sure that all those needs were met. We were able to provide support that way. In moments of reprieve, the mom was able to come in, do some shopping, get some of the basic items that they needed to offset the costs and expenses they had in their household budget. They would come in for masks, which all of us, I'm sure, have enjoyed wearing this year, but they were in desperate need of. So it was a quick one-stop shop for them. They were also able to reach out to us for some assistance through the Neighbor to Neighbor Fund. We were able to provide some financial assistance to help with some of the bills, the loss of employment for the mom, and things of that nature. So when kind of summarizing the support this mom received, she had said, I am so thankful for Waunakee Neighborhood Connection. I have a place to go, a place to talk and get help when I need it. And I always walk out feeling much better than when I walked in.
All right, thank you, Stacy. All of this would not be possible without the investment and involvement of people in the community. And it's been one of the major goals that I was given when I was hired, was to achieve financial stability for the organization. Those of you who've been involved with Neighborhood Connection for a long time know that we had a really successful capital campaign about 6 years ago that allowed us to purchase and renovate the building that we're in to serve as the community store and our offices. However, since then, there was not really good financial stability from an operations standpoint. So it's been my goal to get us there. And so I'm really happy to share that at the end of 2020, we did have a little bit of a cash surplus. Our revenue was higher than our expenses last year for the first time in several years. So we're excited to see that. Some of the things that helped with that, we were able to get a PPP loan, Paycheck Protection Program, of about $25,000. But our fundraising income year over year, just general support from the community, was up about $65,000 over the previous year. Some other positive trends that we saw, we had 188 new donors. This was up 71% over the previous year. Our average gift given from a donor was about $217. That was up 43% over the previous year. And in total, we had 430 donors make 1,329 donations. In terms of the number of donors, that was up about 31% over the previous year, but the number of donations was up more than 90% over the previous year. So people were giving multiple gifts as we were all experiencing 2020 together and recognizing the needs that were existing in the community. So about 60% of our income does come from individual donors. About 15% comes from the business community. So I did want to take a moment to recognize those local and regional businesses that really stepped up and supported us last year. Overall, both from individuals and from businesses, we loved the creativity that we saw last year in the ways that people chose to support us and find ways to make that happen. Bricks 340, did a percentage of wine sales a couple of different periods for us, and then had a donor that matched that. One of their customers is also a donor of ours and matched it. Some of the restaurants did percentage of food sales. People out in the community sold face masks and gave us the proceeds. Another family did a huge annual plant sale that they do on their farmlet and they gave the proceeds to us this year. When Waunakee schools started learning at home, one of the schools got t-shirts for all their kids saying, we're learning at home, and the proceeds from those t-shirt sales came to us. So it was so heartwarming to see just the creativity and the heart that people gave with this past year. So hoping that we can see that trend continue. Certainly another big piece of that, as Kathy mentioned at the very beginning, was the involvement of so many volunteers in the community. And I hate to monetize it because that's just an output. We can kind of give it a measure that way. It really is the impact that everyone has on the people they interact with. But if we take a look at kind of the standard value of a volunteer hour, it was almost $65,000 contributed just through volunteerism at Waunakee Neighborhood Connection. So it was about 2,380 hours. Those were the hours that were recorded. We know that there was a lot of other people out there volunteering their time at home that we didn't capture those hours. But of those just coming in the building and helping out with our clients on a weekly basis, this is the contribution that was made this past year. I think also really significant, as Kathy had alluded to, was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I've had some past experience in managing spontaneous volunteers during disasters. And so I worked with the village and with EMS to come up with a registration system for people who wanted to help. And we had 166 community volunteers that stepped up and said, you know, if anything is needed during this time, please call on me. You know, there are two parts to our mission. One is really helping those folks out who are experiencing financial insecurity. The other is to support service and volunteerism in the community. And so I loved this feedback that we got from one of our volunteers here recently. And she said, during this last year, when so many of us felt unsafe going out of our homes and isolation sometimes became a reality, I was able to comfortably and confidently continue my work. I feel like I've found my place at Neighborhood Connection, helping people, getting out of the house in a safe environment and feeling good about what I'm doing. The bonus is the fantastic people I've met, people I would not have known without my time here. So I think overall, I'm most proud of the fact that due to the leadership of Stacy with our client and volunteer services, very much so, we have had a safe and rewarding environment where people could continue to serve and kind of fight that isolation and step up and help their neighbors, which I think is what this community is all about. So that's kind of a very high level overview of the success and impact that we've had this past year. We do have what we call our community impact framework. Others may call it a strategic plan. And so we have updated that for 2021. And I just wanted to share with all of you some of the key things that we are going to be continuing to develop. We've got 6 primary goals, which we call our conditions for success. Those in purple are the internal things we need to do, and those in the teal color are the external things that we feel we need to do. So the 3 internal conditions are, first and foremost, as I talked about, we need to achieve financial sustainability. Our doors need to be open in order for these services to continue. We want to make sure that we're maintaining efficient and effective operations and ensuring a positive culture. So within those, some of the key actions you're going to see from us in 2021, we're really launching intentionally a sustaining donor campaign. Money coming in on a monthly basis makes it much easier for us to plan ahead and also to pivot and adjust if something unexpected comes up. So rather than having our funding come in spurts throughout the year where we maybe have an event or a particular appeal that goes out, the more that we can get people giving on a regular monthly basis, the more sustainable and effective we're going to be able to be. So you'll see that coming out over the next 3 months. In terms of our operations, we know that we need to put together a long-range plan for building maintenance and updates. We've been in here about 6 years, and so it's starting to show a little bit of wear and tear since the renovation, but we also know the building is a little over 20 years old. Well, maybe older than that, but the mechanical systems are over 20 years old. So we're keeping an eye on those pretty closely. Want to make sure we can take care of any big maintenance issues that come up. In ensuring a positive culture, we've always been very inclusive here, but certainly with the events of the past year, we want to make sure that we definitely have a strong lens on diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. And then external things that you'll see happening, we've got a lot of what we consider output measures, meaning we can tell you numbers of people that we're serving. We really want to do a better job of creating evaluation tools to measure outcomes and impact of our programs beyond just the numbers that we serve. In terms of building community trust and accountability, our board has had quite a few discussions now about participating in advocacy as appropriate related to our impact focus areas. So we know that there are a lot of legislative issues that come up either at the county or state level in particular that impact our clients on a day-to-day basis. So we want to be out there advocating for those causes. And then in terms of community awareness, we want to continue to provide community education programs with relevant partners in the community. And that's really been key to us, as again, Kathy mentioned and Stacy mentioned a bit about the importance of collaboration and what that has meant. But Stacy at this point is going to share another client story with us that really illustrates the power of the collaborations that we've been building.
Absolutely. We served a family this year also in February who unfortunately had a house fire. They live in a duplex, and the entire duplex was pretty much lost to the fire. So they also sadly lost their household pet. Their kitty cat was also lost in this fire. So it's a single mom raising teenagers, two teenagers, and was really at a loss. So she was able to reach out to the Red Cross, and they provided some great support, and then reached out to us. And through our case management services, we were able to coordinate the services in a crisis. Oftentimes, several folks, as everyone has shared today, will reach out to us and they want to help. So we were able to coordinate all the helpers in the community to make sure this family was able to kind of get some support and move on with the next steps of what their process was. So we were able to coordinate with the school district who offered help, a local church, St. Vincent de Paul, and the Waunakee Professional Women's Organization, all of which were able to help this family get into some new housing and assist with some of the rent for the new housing, and also replenish all the belongings that they had lost during the fire. So we are happy to report at this point the family has transitioned into a new duplex, and they're doing well. And that would have not been able to be possible if we all didn't pull together and support this family. So it was a really, really, really neat experience for everybody.
All right. Thank you, Stacy. So in addition to donors and volunteers, I think another key to successfully serving the community has been the partnerships of the other organizations with which we work. And I just wanted to highlight 6 of them, or 5 others here. Obviously the food pantry and Waunakee Ecumenical Board, St. Vincent de Paul, not only the thrift store, but the 2 Catholic parishes here have a St. Vincent de Paul conference that helps out clients quite a bit. The Senior Center, the school district, and Dane County's Joining Forces for Families program. And what's been really exciting to me over the last few months is that this group has really started talking more, getting together on a regular basis. We're talking about how we can better collaborate. We're looking at duplication of services, which in itself may not be bad because some of us have different areas of focus, but we know that it can be traumatizing for people to ask for help and to have to tell their story multiple times. So Todd Schmidt, our village administrator, has talked about how can we create a soft landing for people and then be able to access a whole lot of services. So that's one of the things that I'm excited we are talking to this group of providers about. The other thing I'm excited about, as I mentioned, we are doing community education programs with community partners. And so with the Village of Waunakee and with the Waunakee Community School District, we are going to be launching a community learning project on March 30th. It's going to take place over 6 Tuesday evenings. And we're going to be looking at systemic racism and how it plays a part in our community, and looking at ways that we can put together an action plan together for the village that will result in a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. So we'll be using the book, The White Racial Frame, as the launching point for the discussion. We've got 2 highly skilled and experts in diversity and inclusion. They're both consultants and educators in the Middleton Cross Plains School District, Percy Brown and Rainey Briggs. They're going to be leading us through this. We are anticipating about 200 individuals from the community will be a part of it. We're officially launching the registration this week. So those of you who already said you were interested in this and wanted to know more, we'll be getting the confirmation of the dates, and we'll be getting you on the registration list. And we'll be providing the books free of charge for anyone who wants to participate. So that's one of the community education pieces that we are very excited about. So at this point, I'd like to call on Anna Lazat, our incoming board chair, to share a little bit about what she's excited about in the coming year, and then we'll open it up for some questions and comments.
Hello, I'm Anna. I have taken the chair position over from Kathy, which is very exciting. And I wanted to thank, first of all of you for attending today. Getting up so early and taking time to listen to these stories is really important. It shows your commitment to Waunakee Neighborhood Connection. So thank you. And then I also want to thank Lisa and Stacy for all the outstanding work that they've done in the last year, along with the volunteers working through the pandemic and having to react to unforeseen circumstances in a truly unprecedented time is just so amazing. And really the support that they gave the community at such a great time of need is awesome. So I thank them all for the great work. And then in looking forward, I think Lisa already touched on a lot of the things. And so what I love to see is the board really develop in the last couple years since I've been on it. And I really think our focus has been fine-tuned, and that we're all on the same page and really working towards a common goal is critical to all the successes that Lisa talked through. So we just last week worked on our community impact plan, and it was wonderful to walk through the one from last year and see how much had been accomplished, even through tough times. So the work that everybody is doing really pays off, and it's great to see. In this next year, what we're really going to do is focus on continuing to live that mission, vision, and values. So we want that thriving community, and we love having each other work together so that we are all empowered and engaged in the community. And then what we're going to do is have to continue, unfortunately, to react and adjust to the pandemic, because we know that things are not settled and we're not back to normal yet. So we're going to continue supporting Lisa, Stacy, and all the volunteers in any way we can as we confront new challenges there. And then I think that sustainability of donorship is really critical, and I love to know that we're working on that. One of the things that's challenging as we've looked at budgets is when we're dependent on a certain campaign or a certain fundraiser, we don't always know that we're going to have enough money for the next month or the next 3 months. So having more sustainable donors who are donating monthly is really going to give us security to plan better and budget for a longer term. And so that's very critical to, I think, how we'll be successful for the long term. And I love to see the focus that we put on that as well. And then I'm excited to see that campaign starting. And then last but not least, we have some open spots on our board. And so we're looking to fill those. And we've added some really great people with diversity of background and experiences and a lot of unique skill sets that they're bringing. And so we want to continue to develop that for the new year. And then hopefully in a few months, we might actually be able to meet together and say hi in person. So yeah, thank you again, everybody. And we look forward to a better 2021.
Thanks, Anna. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. I know we've had a couple of people who already had to jump off and get to work, but I am willing to stick around and answer questions and comments. Stacy and I have a favorite quote that we talk about quite a bit, which is that when people vote through their volunteerism about the kind of community they want to live in. And I think you also vote with your dollars as a donor about the type of community you want to live in. So we always want to hear from you about what you want your investment to accomplish. So with that in mind, I'm going to stop the recording, but I will stick around and answer any questions or comments that you may have. If you need to run, we certainly understand that. And thank you so much for being here with us this morning.